great to see you again. Especially good to see you today because this will be the last story before the summer holidays. So we hope you've enjoyed coming and sharing stories with us each week as much as Rusty and I have enjoyed sharing them with you. Rusty's looking particularly spectacular today, don't you think? Yeah, I do too. Look at him, beautiful. Okay, so for a bit of fun this week we've chosen Cudweed in Outer Space. We hope you enjoy it. Settle down for the last time, and here we go. Cudweed in Outer Space. This is Cudweed. If you think he looks funny, you should see his mum and his dad. He has a big sister too, and she looks like this. Almost normal. Almost. If you think they all look a bit odd, you'd be right. But then, this is where they live. And you couldn't live in a castle crazy like that and be normal, could you? It's a sort of place where odd and strange things happen a lot. This is the story of what happened one day when Cudweed decided to read a comic. Now you might think it would be hard to get into trouble reading a comic, yeah? Yes. No, not if your name is Cudweed. Yes, sir, Frilly, Frau, Derek, Goat Feet, Other Hand. Cudweed had found the comic in an old box in the attic, and it was called Rocket Boy, and it looked like this. Cudweed read about the amazing and incredible adventures of Rocket Boy. Rocket Boy got up to all sorts of tricks and was always in danger, but always escaped by the end of each story. Cudweed thought Rocket Boy was cool. Soon he started thinking that he was Rocket Boy himself. The thing that Cudweed liked best about Rocket Boy was Rocket Boy's spaceship. It was so cool, Cudweed decided it was as cold as absolute zero, which in a story called Rocket Boy and the Thrillions of Zoe was the coldest possible temperature ever. The spaceship looked like this. But then a bad thing happened. Cudweed finished reading the comic. He didn't know what to do, so he read it again. 3 hours later, he had finished it again, and again, and again, until at last he knew the whole thing from back to front and back again. Cudweed felt sad and bored and worried all at the same time. Then, at the very back, he saw some adverts trying to sell things, so he read them too. And that was when he saw it. Build your own spaceship kit. Easy assembly, suitable for 8 years and up. Allow 4 to 8 weeks for delivery. Price £5. Cudweed asked his dad if he could have £5 to send away for the spaceship kit. "What's that, my boy?" said his dad. "Don't pester me. Can't you see I'm busy trying to invent something here?" "But Dad, I just want to send off for this spaceship kit. It's just like Rocket Boy's." Cudweed's dad wasn't listening, not properly, so he put his hand in his pocket and gave Cudweed a £5 note. "Off you go," he said. Cudweed grinned from ear to ear. He set off for the kit, and 4 to 8 weeks later, a very large box arrived. Cudweed looked at the box and almost fainted with excitement. The box was a bit battered and looked as though it had been sitting in the corner of a forgotten store for a long time, but Cudweed didn't mind. On the side of a box was a picture of Rocket Boy standing with his space helmet under his arm and his spaceship behind him. He had that look on his face, sort of fearless and determined. Cudweed stared at the picture for about another 10 seconds and then tore his way into the box. The first thing he found was a large page of instructions. "Won't be needing those," he said, and threw the page over his shoulder. "I know exactly what Rocket Boy's spaceship looks like already." Just then, Fella, Cudweed's pet monkey, turned up and began to help Cudweed by pulling all the pieces out of the box. Very soon there was a mess on Cudweed's bedroom floor, and it didn't look much like a rocket. Cudweed sighed. Maybe I do need that page of instructions after all," he said. But it was somewhere under the pieces of the rocket, nowhere to be seen. "Oh well," he said, "I'll just have to do my best, Fella. Would you hand me that spanner?" So Cudweed began to build the rocket. There were some bits that looked like this, and 43 bits that looked like that. There was a large steering wheel, and this. Cudweed banged and stuck and sawed and hammered and drilled, and 4.5 hours later the rocket looked like this. "Fella," said Cudweed, "I'm not sure that I've got it right." But he didn't give up, and after lunch Cudweed did some more banging and hammering, and 3 hours after that the spaceship was finished. "Gosh," said Cudweed, "I've built a spaceship." He looked at Fella. "Shall we?" he whispered. "Shall we go somewhere?" Fella looked worried. "Good," shouted Cudweed, "let's go." And handing Fella the spare space helmet, they climbed aboard. Cudweed pressed the large go button, but nothing happened. Nothing happened for about 3 seconds, and then with the most almighty whoosh, they were gone, out of the bedroom window and into space. Space turned out to be big. In fact, space turned out to be very big. "Well, Fella," said Cudweed, "what do you think? Big, isn't it?" Fella said nothing. He'd been very quiet since they blasted into space and kept looking out of the window. "I wonder," said Cudweed, "what Rocket Boy does when he's in space." Fella said nothing. "I mean, I wonder, if he ever gets, bored." This was a question which Cudweed never got an answer to. The next second there was a big bang, and the rocket shook as if it had been hit by a missile. Cudweed looked out of the window and screamed, "Fella, we've been hit by a missile!" It was true. Cudweed could see a spaceship that looked just like the one that belonged to the Thrillions of Zoe from the comic. They were so close, he could even see the Thrillions waving from the window of their ship. Then Cudweed realised they weren't waving. They were shaking their tentacles at him in an angry sort of way. Another missile zoomed out of the Thrillian ship. "Ah!" wailed Cudweed, and began to press every button on the control panel in front of him. The missile was about to hit them. Cudweed pressed one more button and the spaceship shot forward as if he'd pushed a super turbo thrust button, which he had. Cudweed and Fella watched as the Thrillium missile hit a nearby asteroid and exploded on that instead. But they weren't out of trouble. They were moving fast, very fast, and Cudweed couldn't control the ship anymore. Fella screeched. "Ah!" They were charging towards a large planet at high speed. "I can't stop it," howled Cudweed. "It's gone crazy." Moments later, they crash-landed on the surface of the planet, which was soft and gooey, but not so soft that the ship wasn't badly damaged. "We're alive!" cried Cudweed, and since the window of the spaceship was covered in goo, he opened the top hatch to have a look around. "I hope they're friendly here," he said as he climbed out of the hatch. Inside his space helmet, Cudweed went pale. All around their ship were aliens with many tentacles, and they were all pointing laser guns at him. "Fella," said Cudweed, "I think I know where we are. It's possible, just possible, that we've crashed on planet Zoe, where the Thrillians come from." One of the Thrillians, who looked like the meanest, stepped forward and waved a tentacle or two at Cudweed. Cudweed guessed he was the king. "Raggle, ruggle, raggle," he said. Cudweed thought about this. "In films," he said, "aliens always speak English. Really good English, in fact. Are you sure you don't speak English? Maybe you've just forgotten that you do." "Roogle, roo, raggle, wrangle, roo," said the Thrillian king, and blasted the side of Cudweed's ship with his laser gun. Oh, it looked even less like it would ever be able to fly home. Fella shot into the air. He landed on the top of the ship and gawped at the Thrillians. When they saw him, all the Thrillians suddenly got down on their knees. Well, if tentacles actually have knees. They began to make low noises, as if they were worshipping Fella. "Roo-a-raggle," said the Thrillian king. "Roo-rangle." They put down their guns and started smiling at Cudweed instead. Fella gave a little screech, and the Thrillian king spoke again. "Ringle-raggle, roo-ringle, ringle-roo." Fella squawked, and the Thrillians began to rush around and started to fix their spaceship. Cudweed looked very puzzled. "Fella, are the Thrillians speaking monkey language? Have you asked them to mend our spaceship so we can get home and not to blast us into pieces as well?" Fella scratched his bottom. Cudweed took that as a yes. "Excellent!" cried Cudweed. Soon the ship was ready, and Cudweed and Fella climbed aboard, shaking lots of tentacles and saying lots of thank yous. "Right, Fella, time for blast off. Stand back there, Thrillians," he cried. They shot off into space. "What nice people," Cudweed said as they headed home. "But when you get to know them. But they could have offered us a piece of cake." Luckily, it was tea time in the castle when Cudweed and Fella got home, and soon they got stuck into cakes and biscuits and scones and jam. Cudweed's dad arrived a little later. "What's wrong?" Cudweed asked. His dad looked a bit grumpy. "Well, my boy," he said, "I've been trying to invent a spaceship all day so that I can explore outer space, and it just won't work." If I were you, said Cudweed, I wouldn't bother. Nothing very exciting happens. He winked at Fella and helped himself to another slice of cake. The end. Well, we hope you enjoyed that, everybody. It was a bit of silly fun, wasn't it? I can't see you with all his hair. Bit of silly fun, and we hope you enjoyed it. So, Rusty and I would like to say thank you to you all for joining us each week and enjoying the stories that we've shared with you. It's really been a highlight of our week. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And we would like to wish you all a very, very happy holiday. We hope you have lots and lots of fun and make some great memories. And we really, really hope that we will see you all in September. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye.